learn to play on bad reeds, because there'll come a day where you do not have good reeds to play on and you have a concert that night. In 7th grade I started playing saxophone. I started on alto sax, and then I switched to tenor and to bari. And with all three of those, it's really easy. You just order a box of reeds, and they come in a little box, and you take it out of the plastic cover, and it plays. It's beautiful. Very end of my sophomore year of high school, I decided that I wanted to pick up the oboe, because I loved the sound of the oboe, but I really wanted to play in an orchestra. And I thought reeds would be a similar sort of scenario with saxophone, where you order them from a company that already makes them, and they're easy, and you just take them out of the box and you play them. And I found that a lot of professional oboists make and sell student reeds. So I started ordering from different people all over the US. A woman in Florida, people in Colorado, even people in Seattle. And that was fine, but they're made for different climates. So they respond a little differently in northern Alabama, where it's very humid and very hot. And so I just wasn't completely satisfied. And when I moved up here to Seattle, I got an oboe teacher, and she started talking to me about making my own oboe reeds, which I never imagined I would be doing, but here I am today, making oboe reeds every day. It's really challenging. I'm in the awkward stage of still learning how to fine-tune my reeds. So I can get it started, I can tie it enough to where it's 2 blades, and I can start scraping on it. But my knife skills are in the works, and my scraping technique is also in the works. So just learning what part of the reed needs to be scraped on or not scraped on to make it sound better and keep it up to pitch, give it more color, more life. This is my 2nd year of making my own reeds. And actually playing on my own reeds has been about, I guess I started at the very beginning of this year, actually playing on some of my own reeds. Of course with my teacher's help in making them sound better, but I had to get to college before I actually had the time and was able to put in the effort. It's a lot of effort.
No matter how good you are at reed making, you will always have a day, or maybe more likely most days, where you feel that you're not playing on perfection. So it's kind of up to the individual to figure out a way to deal with that mentally, emotionally, and actually physically on the oboe, to figure out how to make it sound like perfection, even though it doesn't feel that way all the time.
So the cane itself is called a rundo donax. Most of it comes out of the southern area of France, like the Var region. It's very warm and sunny, and where most people think it grows the best. But I mean, it's grown all over the world. So I get my cane already cut and gouged. So it comes in long little pieces like this that you eventually shave down on the sides using a shaper tip and razor blades, and then you fold over and tie on, and then you start scraping on it. I have 4 knives in my oboe case at all times. And one of them's used for finishing, one of them is used for taking off bark. It's a little heavier weight, so it takes off bigger chunks of cane. I've had to learn to use razor blades to cut the very end of my reed, cut the tip off, but not cut too much off. I've had to learn to use sanding paper. I had to learn to tie them, and learning what length I want to tie it on, which will affect how open it is or how closed it is, or which then affects how sharp or flat the reed is. There are a million different variables that you have to learn to manage and control.
When you're learning how to make reeds, it takes a really long time to even be able to just make a reed that you can hand to your teacher, and that person can finish it for you. I think the famous quote, John Mack, longtime principal oboist of the Cleveland Orchestra, he said, "You have to make an entire laundry basket full of reeds before you start to become adept. And I think that's accurate. So that feels like a pretty good read. This other one, my B minus read. Let's see. So the lower octave kind of wants to come in, not as readily as the other. And just kind of from the crow, I can tell it's going to be a little thin sounding. It's okay. I mean, I might play on this in a rehearsal, or it's a pretty light read, so for chamber music, it would be fine. Maybe not an orchestral Brahms First Symphony kind of read, but I have 3 priorities when I make reads. Number 1 is response, number 2 is pitch, and 3 is tone quality. And I think the thing that I find myself often searching for and often talking about with my students is finding a read that feels cohesive and balanced with those 3 priorities in mind. So this read, when I say a read feels good to me, it's usually because it's nice and up to pitch, it's easy, it's free-blowing, and it's balanced so that it vibrates in a way that allows me to produce a beautiful, round, varied, and layered kind of tone color.
Oboists are lucky in that they can kind of pump out a good read in, I mean, you could do it in a day if you're lucky, but it normally takes at least 3 to 4 days to get a solid a good read that you're happy playing on in a rehearsal. And then longer than that to find like a good concert read, it takes me about a week or 2 to feel comfortable on a read where I want. Normally one of my reads will last about 2 weeks. That's probably a good amount. It really depends on how much you're playing on it, and how much you're adjusting it. You know, if it plays great for a week and then all of a sudden it starts playing a little differently, you can maybe adjust it and change that. Maybe you can put a little more life into it. But normally about 2 weeks. That's about how long they last before I'm like ready to not hear this read ever again.
It only takes one. I mean, if I have one that I feel really confident on, then I feel great, good to go. You know, more often than not, I'll have 2 or 3 that are adequate. That one golden read comes along maybe once a season. But, you know, in my usual orchestral routine, I'll make 5 reads a week, and assuming all of my equipment, my gouging machine, the cane that I have ordered, assuming all of that is good, then 4 out of 5 of those reads I'll be able to play on in orchestra. If something's malfunctioning with like a piece of reed-making equipment that I have, then that's when things get really tough and really trying.
I've come around to start enjoying making reads. It's a process. For a while I would watch Netflix or listen to good music or whatever while I was making reads. But now I'm trying to really start focusing on what I'm doing when I'm making a read and how every little tiny touch of the knife affects your sound.
Oh, I was excited. I was really into it. I always liked whittling as a kid, like I was a Girl Scout, and I don't know, I liked to whittle, so I just thought, oh, it's like sophisticated whittling, which it's extremely sophisticated whittling. But I was really excited to learn, and I had no idea what I was getting myself into.